AG Sports. We're in the game. We are actually going to be here today with a quick video, much quicker than the usual videos. So first of all, I want to get into the Bills. I went back and I watched that game against the Steelers. I just heard so much talk about how bad the Bills looked, how bad Josh Allen looked, and that team looks like they're taking a step backwards. So I gotta tell you, I watched that game again, start to finish, and yes, obviously they lost, and it wasn't a particularly great showing. But let me just say that in the first quarter, the Bills really killed themselves with things that I don't foresee happening again, or at least if they do, they're very fluky. So I'm going to give you a couple examples, and then we'll kind of get into it from there. So to open the game, Isaiah Mckenzie has an amazing run back on the kickoff, and he gets to like the 30 of the Steelers. So it sets him up in great field position, and then they just had incompletion after incompletion, and then they had a flag, I believe, and then like another drop. And that kind of set the tone for that first half, and really specifically the first quarter. So after this amazing return, they have to settle for 3, and then it's kind of back and forth with defenses for a while. But what I saw with the Bills is that there were some incompletions and some drops, more specifically, that I think are really just signs of early season rust, if you want to call it that. It's guys like Cole Beasley with drops that you don't usually see in that first quarter. One of them, it was like a little middle crosser route, and I hate to say that things aren't affected by the defense, because they're always affected by the defense, even if there's nobody like right in his face. Just knowing that the defense kind of altered his route some, or he knows he's running into a zone or whatever, can kind of force a drop. But in saying that, he didn't have somebody in his face, Cole Beasley that is, and he dropped this pass where he had maybe like 3 to 4 yards, like in every direction, completely by himself, and the ball hit him in the hand. It was a little high. It wasn't a perfect throw, but one that he catches most of the time. And at the time, I want to say it was like 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 15 or something like that. And maybe he doesn't get the first down, but there's a decent chance he gets pretty close. And then there was another pass later in the same, and I believe in the first quarter still, where it's just a little screen bubble route, and Josh Allen, he throws it. Again, the pass is a little off, but it's not so bad where it shouldn't be caught. It was a little low. I'd say it's probably at the knees of Cole Beasley again on this little like bubble route or a screen pass, but Beasley just straight dropped it. And so same thing there. I don't want to say that, yes, they go on to get a first down or score or whatever, but the fact that he just couldn't catch these and couldn't bring these in really hurt them and really stalled out some drives. And then on top of that, there's 2 to 3 plays in the first half where the Bills get first downs, like they convert third downs, and it's called back on a holding. One of them is where Josh Allen is trying to wait for a receiver to open up, and he takes off running, and he runs like 15 yards, and he gets the first down on a 3rd and 8. It's called back for a hold. There's another one where I believe it was Stephon Diggs that caught the pass, and he caught like a 15-yard pass, moved the chains, and it's called back for a hold. And there's another one where they get an offsides. I mean, it is just like one thing after the other in that first quarter. And so let me give credit to the Steelers. The Steelers defense was amazing. I mean, it was all over these guys. And the Bills were having a hard time passing the ball. They were able to run a few times, especially in the second half. Singletary did get open for a couple of good runs there. But a lot of that, I believe, was just because the Steelers were so busy playing the pass and having all of their defensive backs out there consistently in like nickel and dime packages that they were fine giving up the run. And the Bills didn't really ever think to take advantage of it. The one spot I did see that seemed like a weakness for the Steelers was the tight end spot. Dawson Knox had, I want to say he only had like 3 catches, but he was pretty open for each of those catches. They almost all resulted in first downs. And had the Bills maybe altered their game plan, or maybe just kind of adjusted on the fly, they may have had a better chance of winning this one. Aside from that, take into consideration that the Steelers did block a punt and scored a touchdown on that block punt, and they also had Josh Allen fumble, I believe, on the 35-yard line. So the Bills were already in field goal range when Josh Allen fumbles the ball and the Steelers get the ball back. So, like I said, I'm not trying to excuse the performance. I'm not trying to tell you that the Bills are going to be amazing again. But I will say that they are not as bad as you're probably hearing. A lot of this was just not only an amazing defensive strategy by the Steelers, it was also just great personnel. The Steelers have an amazing roster on their defensive side of the ball, and I think that they're going to give people fits regardless of who they play. Like I said, the only weakness I could really spot out was the tight end spot, and you're going to need to take advantage of that if you want to keep the ball and kind of move the ball against these guys. And it didn't help that the Bills were so predictable. They didn't really do anything different from last year. All the talk about the Bills from last year was that they were a strictly passing team. They were not going to run the ball, and the Steelers knew that. The Bills knew that, and the Steelers played exactly to that hand, and the Bills did nothing to adjust. So that's the take on the first one. The Bills are playing the Dolphins this upcoming week. This is probably not a game I'm going to bet, only because both of my algorithms have this as being a relatively close game. They both have the Bills winning this game, though. They have it as the Madden algorithm has it for the Bills by 3 points. My coaching algorithm has the Bills winning by 2 points. But in saying that, one thing that I don't think really gets taken into consideration here is that the Dolphins are playing with Will Fuller for the first time. Yes, he is in the algorithms, but we really haven't seen how he is truly going to gel. As of right now, it's all just projections with this team. And secondly, it's going to depend on who Tre'Davious White shadows. Tre'Davious White had some amazing plays against the Steelers. He really did keep Claypool in check for the most part. I don't know if he was specifically shadowing Claypool, but it seemed like every time that Claypool was on the field, Tre'Davious White was either on him or very close to him. And the reason I say I don't think he was specifically shadowing, and if he was, it wasn't the full game, is because he was being moved around somewhat, and Claypool was not on the field for every single pass. So the times that he wasn't on there, White was kind of floating around. White did spend some time on Deontay Johnson, but very little, which means that, to me, they're probably trying to keep Tre'Davious White on the more explosive player and kind of trying to limit those explosive plays, which my prediction would be that they're going to put Tre'Davious White on Will Fuller in his first game back and make sure that they can limit those deep passes from Tua to Will Fuller, and they're probably going to let Devontae Parker do what he can, and Waddle should be able to have a great game here. It really did look like Cole Beasley and the tight end Dawson Knox were having a decent game here, and it was just some rust that kind of kept them from having bigger spots, which to me leads me to believe that guys like Jalen Waddle should be able to get some catches here, be able to get some yardage underneath. Maybe he will break one for a touchdown, but I think he's going to see heavy volume against this Bills defense, especially since it's very unlikely that Tre'Davious White spends too much time on him, and again is probably going to be too busy shutting down Will Fuller, or trying to at least. So with all that said, like I said, the Bills, I do believe, win this game. I'm not really interested in taking or laying the 3.5 points. That's the current line right now. And I do believe if you are in fantasy, or if you're looking at fantasy aspects in this game, I think the Bills are going to be just fine. I think Josh Allen's going to be just fine. Stephon Diggs is going to be fine. That whole team should be just fine moving forward. And this seems to just be, a bad matchup against the Steelers. But secondly, if you're on the Dolphin side of the ball for fantasy, I do think you're probably wanting to look at guys like, Jalen Waddle and Devontae Parker more so than Will Fuller. I would like Mike Gesicki, but I don't see anything pointing to a high usage for him. The Dolphins just haven't really given him a lot of looks. Secondly, the Dolphins are playing at home, so it should be hot, muggy, and kind of lead itself more to a high-scoring game and somewhat favor the Dolphins in that position. Lastly, though, guys, I just had some lines that opened up almost immediately after my video came out yesterday. And just fair warning, I am recording this on Tuesday, the 14th. So if the lines may have changed by the time you're actually hearing this, but I just wanted to give you my leans on these. So one was the Chiefs. The Chiefs came out -3 at the Ravens. I love that line, guys. If you have not grabbed it already, get that Chiefs line. Like I said in the previous video, I really truly thought it was going to be more like Chiefs -6 or 7 because the Ravens' performance didn't really inspire. And they also lost against the Raiders, who are also not really, they're nothing that it was to be feared of going into the season. The Chiefs had a not so great showing against the Browns, who are very similar to the Ravens in the fact that they want to run the ball a lot and have a better defense. The Chiefs, in all of my modeling, end up coming out to either like a pick'em or a -1, I believe, in this one. Yes. So in this case, it was Chiefs -1. Now, this Madden algorithm did account for injuries to like Gus Edwards and to J.K. Dobbins and things like that. And again, Tyson Williams, I think, is a good player, and I think he can do some damage. But what it does not account for is really style of play. And the coaching algorithm did try to take this into account more, which is why the Chiefs are a 3-point favorite in this coaching algorithm, which is exactly what the line came out at. But I will say, after watching the Ravens last night and seeing how conservative they wanted to be, and really how much their defense was missing some of the secondary members that they're gone for the year due to injury, like Marcus Peters. I don't see a way that the Ravens can keep up with the Chiefs in this particular scenario. I think that their defense is fine, but it's not great. I don't think they have the right pieces to stop Tyreek Hill. And on top of that, we just saw Darren Waller have a pretty good game, and they were consistently trying to get after him. They were trying to bracket cover him in a few spots. And if they can't stop Darren Waller, I have very little faith that they're going to stop Travis Kelce. Secondly, though, they were trying to put pressure on Derek Carr. It's something I talked about in the last video. And then surprisingly, they stopped right when they should have increased that pressure. But if they try to pressure Patrick Mahomes, and they're really going to leave short little out routes, whether that's to Tyreek Hill or to Kelce or to Clyde Edwards-Helaire for that matter on the little checkdowns, they're going to be in for a long day. I just don't think that defense has what it takes to stop the Chiefs or to slow them down at all. And secondly, while their running game is decent, and I said Tyson Williams is a good player, they do not have Nick Chubb. They don't have Kareem Hunt. It's just not there in the cards for them. And they do not have the offensive line that the Browns had. I think they are going to have a hard time with guys like Chris Jones on the Chiefs shutting down that running game, and also maybe putting a spy on Lamar Jackson, because these guys have played last year. They do know how to slow him down. In this game, I don't see it being close. Last year, the Chiefs wiped the floor with the Ravens because they were trying to prove a point. And this year, the Ravens don't look as good as they did last year. The Chiefs are on a mission. Guys, everything is pointing to the Chiefs in this one. Grab that -3 while you can. I would not be surprised if it's probably up to -4, -5 by tomorrow. And like I said, my expected line here was a -7. I think we're still in for that -7 by the time we actually get to kickoff. And this will be the Sunday night game, so it could definitely get to -7. I don't think that's too much of a reach. Secondly, though, because I did watch that Bills-Steelers game, we have the Steelers at -5.5. That came out against the Raiders. Guys, the Raiders, I think, looked good against the Ravens, but keep in mind that they're playing a depleted Ravens team. They played a Ravens team who was down to their 4th-string running back, and while the Steelers' offensive line wasn't very inspiring in their game against the Bills, and the Bills were able to keep Najee Harris in check for the most part, the Raiders are going to have a hard time trying to stop that guy. He's probably not going to get too much room to work because the Steelers' offensive line is still pretty suspect. But if the Raiders commit to stopping the run the way they did against the Ravens, guys like Deontay Johnson are just going to be wide open. Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Claypool, the receiving core. The Raiders really struggled any time that Lamar Jackson had some time to pass the ball. Guys like Sammy Watkins were converting first downs. Marquise Brown had a couple of big plays there. And that's with Lamar Jackson, somebody who's really more of a run first. I don't want to say run first, but he is known more for his legs than he is his arm. The Steelers should be able to do what they want on offense here. And if they can get a good lead or kind of keep this defense on its heels by using their great receiving core, the Raiders are going to have to commit more to defensive backs. They're going to have to let up on that defensive line. And if that's the case, then it's really going to come down to Najee and how great he can be. Now, I will say Najee Harris did drop 2 wide open passes that really he should have had in that Bills game. But maybe that's rookie jitters. Maybe that's just bad passes. Maybe he just wasn't ready for it. Whatever the case is, if Najee is going to have success in this game, I think the Raiders are really just they're gonna struggle all over the place. And on the flip side of the ball, when the Raiders have the ball, the Steelers defense, like I just said, guys, they are amazing. They were shutting down the Bills. Like I said, the Bills did shoot themselves in the foot, so I don't want to take that away, and I don't want to say that they're the best defense ever, but they were matching up with Stephon Diggs. They were matching up with pretty much every receiver across the board. And like I said, the only spot was really the tight end spot that gave them some issues. So maybe Darren Waller can have a great game here for fantasy, but I don't see that being enough to get them over the hump here. And especially with Derek Carr, guys, I watched that game against the Ravens, and he was just awful every time they had pressure on him. Literally every time there was somebody in his face or hand in his face, he was throwing the ball entirely off. I mean, there was 2 times that he should have thrown picks. The ball was either too high or too low, and it wasn't close. And the Steelers are going to get after him more than the Ravens did. The Ravens are having to dial up blitzes. I don't think the Steelers are going to have to do that very much. And when they do, TJ Watt's going to be in that backfield. He's going to be all over Derek Carr, causing these just miscues. And even if they don't get as many picks as I'm thinking that they will, they're going to just end up having some bad down and distances, and they're going to be very predictable with what they want to do. And then lastly, we have Mike Tomlin versus John Gruden. Guys, Mike Tomlin, while he may not be Bill Belichick, he is better than John Gruden. He's going to be a little less predictable. He's going to keep it more balanced. And the Raiders are going to be most likely trying to run to open this game, and that could be a mistake, especially if the Steelers take advantage and get an early lead. If they get up 7-0, 10-0 at the end of the first quarter, it should be downhill from there. The Raiders just becoming predictable at that point, and that Steelers secondary being able to feast on these guys. Lastly, and this is one more lean, is the Rams minus really a half a point against the Colts for the first quarter specifically. The Colts were able to move the ball against the Seahawks in that first quarter last week, but the Seahawks defense was kind of letting them do what they wanted to do as far as running the ball, and were more concerned with the passing game. And when they realized that the passing game just wasn't there, they did revert to stopping that run on Jonathan Taylor. But the Rams, without both their tackles, I think the Rams should be able to slow down that Colts offense, specifically in the first quarter when the Colts are going to come out trying to be balanced and running and trying to use Jonathan Taylor, and the Rams are being able to shut that down. Hopefully the Rams do score on their first possession, which I fully expect them to. But even if they don't, I do believe they will score by the time they have their second possession. And in either case, it's going to probably be either 7-3 or 10-0 or 10-3, something like that. So take that Rams minus a half point for the first quarter. We're adding those 3 picks to the counter here for this week. And that'll probably wrap it up for all the picks. But thanks again, guys. Again, I did try to keep this quick. If you do have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Any of your picks, I'm very interested to know. Again, leave them in the comments below. Thank you again for the support, guys. Have a great day, and good luck out there. Let's keep making this money.